it's a little bit more important. I mean, we're a little more boutique-y, so you already know us.
Yeah.
I know. I say the same thing all the time, and then sometimes I sound like, what am I saying? No.
Things. And, in lines like this, it's probably a bell curve, There's one or two people that have been there, done it. There's
Sure.
one or two newbies, and
Sure.
you say, polybutylene, and they're
Oh.
Okay, you gotta love the
What?
slides.
Yeah.
is that good or bad?
I don't know what's.
Yeah.
So,
But once you do, that's the
you gotta kind of
problem.
get it at the right level for the audience.
Absolutely.
I don't know if they're going to do this, but I'd like to.
Kind of what I try
Kind
to
of
dive
find
in
out.
on, like, what are the areas that you're really trying to hone in on, and we can try to help. But my operation team does that, so I try to just go where my expertise is, because I have a whole back office that does so much more than me. I'm out here just to tell you who we are and what I know, because I know quite a bit, but not enough just enough to be dangerous. Oh, that is not that picture.
I think that was the one where the photographer said, "Take your glasses off. Let's
My
do it
gosh.
without glasses."
I'm getting my hair done tomorrow, thank God. That's why I'm leaving it up. I can't wash it.
Right on time. How's it going?
Good.
This is Marty, and I just
How
let
are
y'all
you?
do
I'm
the
Jodi.
introduction.
Nice
Okay.
to meet you. Hi, Makita. Nice to meet you.
Is
you're
that your
fine.
mail group, right?
If I could leave
that's
mine
cool.
on, I would.
Yeah. Okay. Just making sure I know how to do this thing.
I have no idea.
All right. Can you hear me?
I'm going to have to check my Uber driver
Okay.
for a little while.
So we got people online with us. So trying to do this in-person online thing to try to accommodate those people who are from afar. So thank you guys for joining us for the June meetup. I appreciate y'all coming out, because I know you could be at home chilling and enjoying your time off work. So I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate those folks that are tuning in online. Some people are on the East Coast, so they're like 3 hours later than you, so you have no reason to complain. But they put the kids down, so they're better than you guys. We have a good meeting today, as we do always. We're really just taking everyone through the stages of different pieces and parts of the multifamily syndication process, the key players that you need to know, the key things and terms and analysis and all that good stuff that you need to know. So we've had a lot of really great sessions. If we're starting to post them on our YouTube channel, so if you haven't gone to Lessons into Blessings on YouTube, you should definitely check it out, because our self-directed IRA one is posted on there, and also next week our tax one from last month will get posted on there. So this month we have two key players that are part of really the due diligence part of syndication, and it's really a part of real estate in general, because there's different pieces. But I wanted to really bring both of these guys in to really give an understanding on the differences from the single family side. So some of you guys, you may own single family properties, you may engage with the property manager, you may engage with property inspectors, but there's a lot more that comes into it on the multifamily side. But there's synergies. So you'll be able to, my hope is that you'll be able to kind of transfer that knowledge and gain some of that understanding. Once again, this is not a one-person show. It is a team. So multifamily is a team sport, and we have a lot of players that are involved in that process. So as always, I usually do a very detailed introduction. I won't go through it. You can read the slide. But basically, I've been in real estate for quite a while. Jumped in on the multifamily side late 2020, early 2021, and really just started seeing the multiplication factor of multifamily individually. And then in last year timeframe, I stumbled upon the multifamily syndication process. And when I was in a lot of those spaces, didn't see a lot of us, and realizing the power of pooling our money together and the power of that I know a lot of people in the Valley that do a lot of single family investments, and we're slowly trying to make it work from a single family standpoint. And there's just so much more that can be done when we are able to pool our capital together. And so that is really the vision that I have, is to create a community of investors that recognize their collective power to be able to really take down assets and change their financial trajectory, and the generational wealth of their family. And so we do that 3 different ways. Number one is just the exposing you, number one, to each other, exposing you to a lot of the professionals that are coming into the room so that you can have information. The more we expose you to it, the more you're going to see it. You know what I mean? So there's people that have been in this room and now they're like, oh man, I saw this and I saw that, and they're gaining new understanding. They're going out, they're learning it on YouTube, and they're finding different pieces to kind of fill in some of the spaces from what they learned today. And I love that. That like makes my heart smile when people come back and tell me, oh yeah, I found this, da 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 da, which tells me how hungry they are, right? So exposure is one, just putting you around it, then your eyes start to open and you start to see things that you didn't see before. Education, that's why we're in the room, is just to get you guys educated enough, whether you want to play on the general partnership side or you want to play as a limited partner. I know we talk about this is the passive investing club, but there are people who want to play on the active side. So if that's a desire for you, we're going to talk a lot about just what you should understand from a passive side. But for those people who do want to dive more on the active side, I'm open to it. So I've had a lot of one-on-one conversations with different people, just getting an understanding of what they really want to do. And that helps me. So I do encourage people to set up time with me. I put it in the emails, just a link to my calendar, so that I can really understand what your needs are as a group, because that's important. If you guys aren't, you guys have seen my core values. If you guys aren't getting results, then it makes me feel bad, right? Like I don't feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing if you guys don't get results. So some of that takes time because we got to find the right deals. We are looking at deals actively. There's some things that myself and Jodi have already looked at, and things that we continue to like, is this going to work for our investors? Is this going to work for? So the more we know what you want, the more we can set it up, set the stage for, okay, this actually might work based upon X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Hopefully that makes sense.
It does.
Always a disclaimer, it's for educational purposes. You should advise all of your professionals, whether they're tax, all of that stuff, the deal. I'm going to skip over this slide because we've just got a lot of material, but lots of reason why I love multifamily. And if you set up a one-on-one, I'll tell you all the reasons. For those people who do not know the syndication structure, really it's syndication for those people who are online, who make sure you message us in the chat, let us know you're online. For those people who don't know about syndication is really just group investing. We're pooling a group of people together to take down large assets. And it's funny because I saw like in probably 2019, 18 timeframe where I was like, man, these multifamilies getting rehabbed all over the place. And I was wondering, okay, whose business is that, a REIT and I didn't even realize that this is what it was, right? And they're all over the Valley. You'll see them when you pass. The more you come to these meetings, you're going to be like, oh, wow, that's what Tari was talking about. So there's these syndication groups that are across the Valley, and they're just a group of investors like me and you that have come together and decided, hey, we're going to go take down these large assets. And so there's the general partnership team who's making sure that the deal makes sense. They're handling a lot of the tax items. They're doing the asset management. We're going to talk about asset management and property management. They're dispersing you all the tax information that you need, and they're making sure at the end of the day that the business plan that they set before you, they execute to it, right? Because at the end of the day, if they're not really making you your worth, they're not going to last long in the game. On the limited partnership side, it is truly the passive side. Is you get to put your money into a deal and just let it make money for you without doing anything. And that's the really beautiful part, is some of this money that we're doing on the active side, putting into single family homes in different spaces. we could be putting it in a syndication and making that money work for us without, without the effort. And for those people who, I'm very active, most people know, I'm extremely active, but I have limited partner. I'm invested in limited because there's some certain things I'm not going to be able to do. I have, we're time bound, all of us, right? So we're only limited to a certain amount of hours in a day. And so we can only do so much. So it makes sense, even if you want to be active, to still put your money into limited spaces, right? Limited partnership spaces, because once again, your money, it has the ability to grow for you. Okay, so I talked about last month, the extended team, and I'm not going to go into all of the different players on the team. I'm really just going to point to this, and we'll talk about the property inspection because it's kind of in this due diligence space. Usually, the property manager will pull that inspector or pull that resource into play. So we're really going to this meeting. We're really going to talk about the due diligence. When we're out and we're underwriting deals, how we're engaging the property management team, how we're engaging the inspection team to really be able to like put in an offer, make sure the offer's solid, make sure we have certain things. And Jodi's going to talk to a lot of this. So that's like before we put in an offer, this is all the things that we do and how we're engaging with our bench, right? To make sure this is the right deal and the deal is going to pencil out before we put the offer in. Then there's that due diligence space, right? This is usually around the time where you guys are going to get notification, hey, we got a deal. We're going through we may go through the due diligence before you know about it, due diligence beforehand, but you're going to probably start catching wind. Hey, we've got something that's locked up. There's a whole process in that. But we're now going to go do our due diligence on the property to make sure that it all pencils out. And these guys are going to talk through a lot of that. And then once that property is locked down, it's the after process. How are we managing that asset? How are we managing that property? So I'm going to introduce business manager at CalCap Property Management Properties. She is a resource for us and a resource to other people that we know in the Valley who also are in this space. And so I'll bring her up really quickly. If you could welcome to me, Jodi.
Yes, sure. Hi, thank you. Thank you, Tari, for
No
having
worries, no
me.
worries.
I don't know where this.
Yeah, you're good. You're wherever. Don't
Okay, great.
flow however you need to flow.
Fantastic.
And I'm going to help you with these
Super.
slides.
Do you want me to start now? Or
Yeah,
you
go
want
for it.
Already? Okay, great. So, hi, how are you? I'm Jodi Weybright. I am with CalCap Properties. I am the relationships manager, our clients, and the business development manager. And so, what that looks like is I have started out in the single family for 26 years, and I have moved into multifamily now quite a few years ago. We are a multifamily third-party property management company. So what we do is we build like-minded relationships, such as these meetings. We sponsor these meetings so you can find the syndicate that you're looking for, the same people that are looking for the same investments, and to get away from a W-2 at the end of the day. So we do a lot of these meetings to help you. And so what we do, we manage in over 8 different states. We manage 75 units and above. However, with that being said, we do look at every different asset. So what that looks like is when we have partners that have property sitting over here, for instance, down the street that have 200 units. If you're coming at us and saying, we want to look at this property that's only 26 units, we look at everything demographically. We look at everything, what rents can get to. So we will go to that. And the interesting thing about us, we are more boutique-y. So CalCap Properties has been out there for over 15 years. We have a different division in California called CalCap Advisors, and they buy properties. So we will manage to theirs wherever they buy. However, we actually manage over 7,000 doors as a third-party fee. We manage in Little Rock, Arkansas. We manage in Kansas City. We are in Utah. We are in Albuquerque. We are in Nevada. We're in Las Cruces. We're in Phoenix and all the submarkets, Tucson, Casa Grande, and we're in Nevada. We're in Florida. And so But the most interesting philosophy about us is not the number of doors, it's our relationships with our partners. So if we can't bring on something that you're going to get the return on your ROI and your residents aren't going to get that experience, we will literally not bring that on. And so let me tell you a little bit deeper about what we do. So as you're looking at a property, for instance, and if you're going after an asset, I tell people, please send me the T12. Please send me the rent roll. And if it's on market, please send me the OM. My team will do a light underwriting for you to let you know before you put an LOI in where we think you can go on those rents and those aspects. And we'll give you an idea. So we do value add properties. We do A, behind our back, B, C. We have our GCs that we bring out within.
I'm
We also have.
gonna pause you there. I
You
know
sure
you're rolling.
Please
Because
go.
ABC, people don't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's good.
Please tell them that. So
Yeah, so A property is like Scottsdale, ritzy's, got a pool, got a gym. B property is kind of middle grade, usually probably has a pool, maybe not a gym. Your A is like top of the line. B is like still probably average, is probably apartment properties that you may have rented from when you first moved to the valley, before you may have bought a house and all that good stuff. Your C properties, and there's ways to classify it, and so I'm doing this really like dirty.
no, you're right.
But C is really your workforce housing property, right? So these are more your blue collar neighborhoods, and I love C property because I'm in that all day, and B minus, B properties, I'm kind of range in between there, and then your D is a little bit more rough. That's going to be a little bit more activity from a criminal standpoint. But as you go down the tiers of these classes of properties, you're going to find that your returns are greater. Right. So your cap rates usually will go up as you go down the properties because it's just going to be more income generating.
That's correct.
So you were like, well, why would somebody want a D property? Well, because they're going to cash flow very well in a D property, but they're also going to have the headache of having to deal with, all of the stuff that comes along with that. Yeah.
And that's right. Mm-hmm. And thank you. And by the way, you can work for me anytime. But that is right. And so what we try to do is bring those properties and give you an idea. How can we make you not only, it's not really all about always pushing rents, but it's making a value add to that property. And what can we bring that those residents are looking for, right? Do we need a dog park? What are we looking for in there? Are we looking for a gym? What can we do with this space over here? Are they 1x1s? Can we move them into more of a 2x1? Things like that. That is what my team does. So we have an in-house operations staff. And what that looks like is when you are as a partner with us, you have an in-house marketing team that is going to help you relogo that property. Not only relogo it, but also re-Google it, re-website it, redo the whole value to that, what we think. Then we're going to have an operations team. That operations teams, and I'm going to talk about that second because then I insert you. So my operations team we have our own in-house customer service team. They can answer, and they are bilingual to answer to every property. Should any one of our properties, by the way, we manage over 64. We manage to them very intelligently. We have regional managers. We have community managers that they talk to. Our owners are reporting to them twice a week, if not four times a month, to know where the reporting is. What's going on in that property? Where are we at on vacancies? Where are we at on leasing? We incentivize our employees on that property to make sure you have the retention flowing in, right? To make sure you don't have those delinquencies. If there's an empty, how are we going to do that? And I'll talk to you about that in just 1 second. We have our in-house financial department. You will report to him and he reports to you on everything on the 15th of every month of where you're at and gives you all your incentives back. You have direct contact. Our technology systems are Yardi. That is a reporting system that every owner has. You have access to it. So any PO that any one of my managers puts in, whether it be a chiller unit, whether you have a boiler unit, whether you have an AC unit, whatever year that property is, nothing is done until you say, here's what this PO, and we don't go past that budget. Nothing is done until you are okay with that. Everything is communicated very, very well. So Yardi is a very, very big system for us. We have a system called Knock, which is another high technology system. So anytime units are vacant, we constantly have leads flowing through from that whole neighborhood to make sure there's not going to be vacancies, there's not going to be a turnover, that you're going to constantly have a flow of individuals that are looking for, maybe they're looking for a studio or a 1x1 or a 2x2 or maybe a 3-bedroom, whatever you have. Whatever they're looking for, we do that. We make sure that if you're missing anything on pets deposits, we have a very, very even flow system. We also have our own in-house compliance department, keeping you up to date on fair housing. We do our own background checks. We make sure everything is done. But at the same time, I will tell you, we communicate. As long as the tenant is communicating with our managers, we're not trying to push people out of a property. Talk to them and make sure, is there a situation that was happening? For instance, in COVID, our managers did everything they could. They went after, and we stayed above the line, and they got all that rental assistance on a lot of our properties. So there was not a negative, and we didn't lose tenants. So we're here to help people stay in their home, but also make sure you're getting the return, and we have to answer to our partners, right, and the owners that you're looking for. But the most important thing is also when you're talking to our teams, they're looking to see, what are you really wanting out of this property? Where do you want it to go? What do you think the value is? So when we do our underwriting, when you're looking at something, we're going to let you know where we think you can go to rents, right? And we're going to be really realistic. We're going to tell you honestly what we think. We don't want you to come back and all of a sudden you've won best and final, you've won that property, and you're like, we're not going to get that. It's just absolutely impossible. We're like, well, we're going to tell you where you can go. We're not going to push it. Can you go to value out? How far can you go with that? Where are your rents going to go? Where we think you can really realistically go. And after all that happens, we move through. So once you make it to, say, best and final, we'll do a little deeper dive on your underwriting.
I'm going to pause so that they understand that piece.
Okay. Should I talk a little bit softer?
No. You're perfect.
I know.
You're perfect. You're perfect.
Okay.
So for the underwriting piece, and she's talking to that, that's going to be all the stuff that we're doing right now, right? So we're looking at properties, Phoenix, Glendale, Peoria, Mesa, and we're saying, hey, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? We're touching base with the property management team to say, hey, here's what we're looking at. Here's kind of the profile of this property. What do we believe the rents are going to be? They're going to give us a little bit of intel that's going to plug into our underwriting to say, hey, is this gonna work or is this not gonna work? Right. So what she's talking about, best and final, because some of you might not know all the terminology.
Oh, okay.
So once we say, hey, yeah, this looks solid, we want to put an offer in. We put in what's called a letter of intent, and we send that to the broker. And then they gather all of the people who are putting offers in on this property. If we're the only one, great. That's usually not the case. But there's all these people who are putting offers in on these properties, sometimes off market, sometimes on the market. And then what she's talking about, best and final, is they narrow it down to what is the best and finals. And this is why relationships with mortgage brokers and things like that is important. Fair. Because as we have, even the people that we're connected with from a mentorship standpoint, if they have relationships, we have those relationships too, right? And so that helps us to be able to get presented deals that may not be, and to give people the assurance that you can get the deal done, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And to piggyback off that is why we are in these meetings, because we can all work together on that, right? So as you mentioned in the beginning, that is why we have people that come together to get these properties. We talk to it. Like, we put your relationships with title. We have the mortgage brokers that can help you, right? Even our brokers out there from Marcus and Millichap, if you ask some of these, they can help you too, or the CBREs. But what we really try to do is make sure we understand. So as she mentioned, I'm going to speak to that a little bit better. So when you get into the best and final, that just means, okay, there's 2 or 3 of you we're going to take. We like your offers. Now we come in a little bit more red line and say, okay, here's where we think you can go after we refurbish the entire portfolio, right? Where we think you're going to go for payroll. And payroll looks like the property management side? Do you need to have 2 people on that property or 1 in and 1 out? What that means is, do we need to have 1 maintenance guy? Do we need to have 1 CAM? And the CAM is our community area manager, right? Or does she need an assistant? It depends on the size of the units. So we can always do hourly on maintenance techs, but they all, by the way, are certified through us. They have training. They know these units. They know what they're doing. We are very, very, very savvy in all of that, and our managers too. So it depends on the size of the property where your payroll is going to go and how many people we think you're going to be there. Not necessarily are you going to need a full-time staff at all times, but you want to make sure, and just so you know, our customer service team always can answer to any kind of work orders for any resident at any time, and they will turn that over, and it has to be turned over within 24 to 48 hours. We have a KPI called. What that looks like is it is a call with our team all over the properties every Wednesday of every week. I'm on a call 3 times a week with my entire team, but the entire properties are with my operation teams because we do quality control. We want to make sure we're communicating. What are you missing? What's happening on that property? Is there any resident that's not happy? What is it looking like? What unit hasn't been done? Why has that pool not been fixed? What's happening? So just so you know, we're very, very, so when it comes to property management and reporting, it's not just about who you're looking for. When you're looking for a property manager, you want to know, number one, when you're asking for them, where are you at? What areas are you in? What properties do you manage? As we mentioned, A's, higher, B's, good, C's, not bad, C plus, and D's, we can push them up. But we're all there. You want to ask these questions. What do you guys know? How long have you been in the business? How long have you been doing? We're a little more boutique-y. We're not looking to be a giant. We want to make sure you're getting what you want out of it. And now I'm going to insert him. So after you get into, say, you've won the property, the close of escrow date's coming, and here we come. So now you're going to have a point of sale agreement, right? Once you have that, we will go out and we do a due diligence for you. And the due diligence that we do is going to be a unit by unit inspection by my operations team. It's going to be a lease by lease audit on every unit. It's going to go through, and it brings out vendors, and I'm going to insert him in just 1 second. So all of our roofers, your floors, your plumbers, your chillers, your AC, we bring them out. We don't charge for that should we take on as a property manager, because it's doing what you need to see on that property. And now I'm going to insert Marty as the inspector.
Okay. Awesome.
There you go.
All right. So just to give a quick intro to Marty, I want to call him Martin, but he likes too. Marty. So we're going with Marty. So Marty is chief inspector over at, hey, how's it going? At Inspective First. And back to what Jodi said, and he's going to come in and talk a lot about this due diligence. I don't want to gloss over it at all, because once we now have that, like she said, the purchase sale agreement, we're now going in and we're like validating everything that our underwriting said.
Right.
So everything that she came in and she said, hey, I think maybe a dog park here or this there, and we've put in some of these assumptions into our underwriting. We're going in, we're saying, oh, whoa, we thought maybe this was looking a little better than this, right? Or maybe we wouldn't have to replace all of these. And so we're going through and we're validating all of that underwriting based upon what all the people that we bring to the table, what all of these people are inputting.
Right. And before he says, do you mind if I just insert one more thing for 30 seconds? So this is our due diligence software, right? So this is called HappyCo. And with this, it goes by unit. And so you're seeing the reds, you're seeing the greens, you're seeing the yellows. So we go in, my team goes in, and you get the reporting of this automatically. It's all technology driven. So we go in and we look under how does this sink look? How does this dryer look? How does the plumbing look? You're going to get either a green go, like it looks awesome. You're going to get a yellow. That means, you know what, it could be a little replaced, but it's going to make it, or a red, like done. But also with that, you're going to get a value of what that replacement would be. And now, there you go.
Okay, I think we have 2 questions. So
Yes, please.
do you want to ask the question really quickly? Let me borrow your mic real quick, Jodi.
Oh, sure, because I don't think I need this thing. I'm so loud.
Well, you do. People online won't be able to hear you.
Thanks. Yeah, so 2 questions from the chat. First question, what are the signs of a tired landlord or a tired property manager that's looking for an exit?
What are the signs? So I think I would say, my answer to that would be, you gotta look at the numbers. Number one, how's your vacancies looking, right? What are your retentions handling? What's your funneling going on? How are your tenants feeling about that property? Are there complaints? Looking at the Google reviews, I mean, those are very important. But the most thing is important is to really completely communicate with the residents there, and there's that microphone. But I would say that. I mean, it's really important to look at the numbers and where we're losing money. Where are we losing? Look at everything internally. What's happening? Are the employees, is there a lot of turnover? Number one. What's the turnover look like? And why are they being turned over? It's all about that. And that's probably the biggest part, is knowing the communication, the team atmosphere, what's happening with that management company, and how are they incentivizing and really communicating with them to make sure that property is up to standards where they want it to be for that ROI.
Let me add to that.
Sure.
I'm just going to add to that. So that was a great question too, by the way.
Yes.
So you saw those 2 big circles, the asset management and the property management. So Jodi's running the property management team. She's staffing it up, but that asset manager on the general partnership team is meeting regularly with their staff, and they have their own set of KPIs to make sure, once again, that the business plan gets executed. So we're not leaving it in the hands of the property management team to just, obviously we want to hire the best, right? And we want to make sure that they're doing and they have the capabilities to manage our property as best as possible. But we don't let it rest on that. As the asset manager, we're making sure that they're doing everything that they said and that we set out to do.
Absolutely. We are following, with that being said, and to answer that question and a little bit deeper, we are following the lead of our partners and where we think we go. As long as, hands off is fantastic because we know what we're doing. We can handle that. We actually do events out on the properties to make sure these folks are happy. We have a lot of residents that we try to just bring in this camaraderie, right? To make sure everyone is feeling that same thing. So we communicate always. So when you feel a dip in your property, and we see it, that's the reason we have our quality control calls on a weekly basis, if not daily. Our lines are open to see where they're at. Why are we losing? And why is this dipped from the residents? We have percentages. We have a very, very intricate system to find out where are we at with residents. Is this one moving out? What's going on? And we find out why, and we deep dive into that. And then that's where I would say you can notice you've seen a lot of swing. There's something happening, and you need to look at it. And if your management company isn't communicating with you or listening to you, it's a very big factor. They should be following where you want to go, with what you're wanting to look for, also what we've set in stone to make sure we are where you could be and where we want to go. Because we have our own goals for you as well. And yeah.
Thank you.
Great question.
So one last question here. So how do you determine if a property can be repositioned with upgrades, such as like dog parks or in-unit laundries, things like that?
So that's a very good question as well. So that just depends on the property itself. Where are they at right now, right? Where is it at in rents? Where is it sitting? What's happening on that property? Where can we? So obviously, at the end of the day, I mean, we're all just going to, be quite transparent here. We're trying to make, when we purchase a property, we're obviously looking to make a little bit more money off that. We don't want to throw people, but we're trying to get to market rents. So what else can we get to market rents for? And so when we look at that and we're doing our underwriting, we're trying to see where can we position that property to make it be a little bit better? Can we add Can we fix cabinetry inside? Can we do some painting? Can we add additional upgrades, lighting, any kind of fixtures in the kitchen, right? And then when you look on the outside, how about parking over? We look at that too. How's that look for overhangs in the parking lot, dog parks? So we look at that very clearly. When you're truly trying to make a difference and build it up, are utilities included? Do we need to do that? Do we make them separate? We look at it all, and we really will let you know where that needs to go to get to that. And it's not like you're pushing it outside. You're just trying to get to where the market rents are. And she's going to have another. There you go.
No,
No,
'cause
I love her insight.
Yeah,
because we
no.
walk properties and tour properties with you, and that's where we go.
Yeah, and when we're looking at this, we're also looking at the business strategy. So keep in mind, when we're underwriting, before we get into it, we're looking to see, hey, what does this look like? What's the area around it? Is the area getting regentrified? If you guys know Midtown, right? Midtown was the hood. Now Midtown is like, it's like chic, like, urbanites, right? Like, so who was the first person to shift that, right? So maybe there's a couple, trend shifters, right? Because it's like, oh, downtown's gotten, so where's these areas pushing into? So you're looking at all of that. They're giving us that insight because they manage other properties in the area. They manage other properties in the spaces. So they're able to really give us, okay, yeah, this has worked for this property or this hasn't worked. And once again, this is kind of projection, right? Obviously, you've got to make shifts and adjustments. And that's the beauty of having the general partnership team really closely aligned with the property management team, like on a regular basis, so that we understand, okay, what shifts or adjustments do we need to make sure that we're still, trying to get to what our plan was.
Right, and that is, and I'm going to stop talking in 1 second, but that is exactly what it is. You're looking at the demographics. What are they doing in that area? Who are we going to bring? What are they doing to make a difference in that area? And that is the biggest key. And we look at the comps in that area. What is apartment over here doing, and what are they doing different, and where can we get to that to go?
And even
It has to make, and the income. It's all based on, there's so many platforms. And when you look at what we give you, we can walk through it deeper. And I'd be more than happy to talk to any of you and give you some examples of what we've done at any time. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Did you want to talk?
Yep, I'm going to Marty. I'm handing it over.
I know Marty's. I got you.
Actually, so I'm Marty, inspected first. Should I stand in a certain place? How's this?
Yeah, you're good. Don't worry. Just
Okay.
flow as you flow.
So we've inspected about 30,000 units in the last 18 years. So we know the Phoenix market really well. We go to Tucson, points in between. A lot going on in Tucson right now. We go to Flag, points in between. But the bulk of our work is right here at Greater Phoenix Metro. A lot of our clients really like us. They've paid us to go to Dallas. We've been to Vegas. We've been to New Jersey. We've been to Pennsylvania, Colorado, California. It's not easy to transport an inspection team to other states. So think in terms of Arizona. That's really where we do the bulk of our work. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much anywhere in Arizona. If you ever see like 5 identical 2006 brown Priuses in a parking lot, no signage on it, that's us. We specifically don't put signage because we don't always want people to know they're under a property inspection. So, but Priuses are great. But anyway, have any of you heard me speak before? I didn't. Okay, I didn't see any familiar faces. So if you've been to one of my presentations, you know I like to have a lot of fun. So I'm going to circulate 4 items. No rewards or anything. Just if you figure it out, you get an attaboy. But there are 4 items here. If you can tell me what it is and then why it's a problem, and we'll do this at the end. So I'm going to circulate it, and I'm going to give this one away. Do not open this. This is a hazardous material. It's actually not that hazardous. Okay, so apologize to the people who are online. You don't have access to some paperwork I left out, but I did put copies of the state standard for home inspection. So why is that important? In Arizona, inspectors have to be licensed to do single family rentals up to fourplexes. So if you say you're an inspector, you have to meet the licensure requirements to do that. Of course, Arizona, Wild West, you get to 5 units, there are no standards, there's nothing. You got to pick a good inspector and you got to believe what they're telling you. So it's kind of a quirk for Arizona. You go to Vegas and you got to be a commercial inspector. You got to be licensed, et cetera. So what I left there is the home inspection standard. I'm not going to go through it. If you have questions, shoot me an email, call me, whatever. I also put the pool inspection standards. Arizona is one of the few states that has a standard for pool and spa inspections. So that's kind of a cool thing. A lot of states are copying our standard. So, this is kind of a bunch of trick question photos. So how many of you have heard of Zinsco panels? Okay, so Zinsco is a kind of an older panel. It's on a watch list, and there are some insurers that are starting to uprate facilities that have it. So if we see these, we're going to tell you, you got Zinscos, and you really need to be thinking about replacing them. So you won't be able to read this, but that's actually labeled as a Sylvania panel. Interesting thing about Sylvania is back in the day, they bought Zinsco, and for 3 years, Zinsco panels came off the Zinsco manufacturing line, and Sylvania put Sylvania stamps on them. So you can't always tell by reading the label if it's a good or a bad panel. You can kind of tell by the breaker type. The problem with them is they don't trip when they have a fault current. And so when a breaker doesn't trip and there's a fault current, the wire becomes the breaker. The wire starts to melt, can catch fire, so you have fires. Hence, insurance companies don't like to see Zinscos in your properties. Right next door here, we got a Federal Pacific panel, another panel on a watch list. These are even worse. They were subject to congressional hearings. They were going to recall it. Again, this is many, many years ago. And the rumor is there was some payment to a committee chair, and they never got recalled. But insurers can't stand Federal Pacific. They really are hard on them. This is kind of an inspector humor photo because this tenant, the breaker kept tripping, and they actually wired it so that it wouldn't trip, which is kind of defeating the purpose of the breaker. But what makes it funny for an inspector is, well, this is a panel where the breakers don't always trip anyway, so why you have to wire it shut? But anyway, after we took that picture, we clipped the wires. So this one right here, these little silvery wires, anyone know what those are? Single strand aluminum wire. So contrast that with these. These are multi-strand aluminum. So multi-strand aluminum is perfectly fine, no problems at all. Single strand aluminum is going to get the attention of insurers. And you do not have to pull all the wiring out if you have it. There's a methodology where you just have to do the connection. So imagine that wire going into a light fixture. They pull the wire out, they splice in a little 2-inch piece of copper, and they put the copper end back into the light fixture. The key is, how do you connect the aluminum wire to the copper? There's only 3 approved methods. Electricians know all this stuff. And so it's pretty easy to do, but there's still a cost per unit. And if you have it, you need to be aware of it because it is going to come up. Okay? And then this is a real trick question. Anyone know what that piping material is? Yes? It's not. What do you know what it is?
I know what it's called, I can't remember, but I know it's supposed to be used as, it's not supposed to be used.
She's on it. She's close.
She's there.
She's close.
I've replaced that.
It's polybutylene.
Yes.
So the reason this is a trick question is this is actually in not a domestic water service usage. It's being used for fire sprinklers. So in like Scottsdale since 1987, all homes had to have fire sprinkler systems, and many of them have polybutylene. But the failure mechanism for a fire sprinkler system is different than a house, like a domestic water use. So the City of Scottsdale Fire Department is not mandating that you replace this, but if you have it on domestic water service, that's a problem. You really should be thinking about replacing it, and the replacement would be like PEX. Yeah. So let's advance. So what do we do? Just to kind of contrast what Jodi's team does, Jodi's with you every step of the way. We show up on a day, we inspect the heck out of the property, we issue you a report, and then if you have questions, we answer them. If you have more questions, we answer them, but then we're kind of gone. So we are an independent third party that really dives into the systems of the facility and help you understand what it is you're buying. It also gives you the opportunity to maybe renegotiate. Can't guarantee anything, but in a normal market, a lot of people kind of count on 10 to 20x our fee as a retrade value in stuff we find. And part of the reason why it can get up to like 20 times our fee is we have we do all kinds of stuff. We do multifamily, commercial, you name it. But in the multifamily space, we do a lot of Class C to Class B and value add conversions. And so there's always, something wrong with the property. It either has Federal Pacific, or it's got single strand aluminum, or it's got old condensing units or old water heaters. And after we do our inspection, we prepare this document. It's called a Statement of Probable Cost. And it takes every defect that we've listed in our report and assigns a cost to it. And in section 2, we do a 5-year CapEx. So we're looking at all your air conditioners, and we have a little technique that we use where we can kind of do a predictive model on how many air conditioners are you going to have to replace over the next 5 years. And so we do like a 5-year CapEx on air conditioners, water heaters, electric panels, roofs, parking lots, big ticket stuff, and give you some visibility to what you might experience down the road. And then section 3 is all about the value add strategy. So before we would actually do the inspection, we would meet with you and try to understand what assumptions, okay, we're buying this facility, so it has a single meter. We want to convert it to multiple electric meters. And we want to take the central laundry, we want to move the central laundry into individual laundries, and we want to convert that central laundry space into a bike storage facility. I'm making something up. But if we understand what your plan is, we're going to analyze the systems and give you some feedback like, moving the laundries in, that'll be easy. You got 100 amp panels, you got 3-inch mains in the middle of each building, so you can do your drainage, you can do your electrical for the dryers. But boy, the metering, that's going to be a challenge. And then we'll explain why that'll be a challenge. So that's the kind of insight that section 3 of the Statement of Probable Cost is all about, is giving you the cost impact, if any, trying to do the value add that's critical to your acquisition strategy. So I think that's it.
Well, that is, and if I could add to that, there is a reason that an inspector is very, very important, and reasons just like that. You go into, and there is a reason we have him out there because it can make a difference in what you're offering and where you think your value add is going to go. Number one, what if you want to put stack of washer and dryers in units versus having a washer and dryer center, right? He's going to come in and say, how are we going to make that happen? Is that plumbing going to work? Is that electric going to work? It's very, very important to look at. There's a reason due diligence is done. There's a reason you have an inspector. There's a reason we're there for you to make sure you're getting in on the right thing. And so you can evaluate what we think you can do. Are you going to do low flow toilets? Are we going to do a little more energy conservation? He is going to be the one. Is this going to work? Can we make this happen in these units? Right. So you're a very, very valuable tool.
Actually, let me give a quick case study.
Sure.
So our team did a 28 unit this morning, and the situation was they had 40 amp service going to each unit, 40 amp. So putting dryers into that space, electrical dryers, was kind of problematic. And so we had to advise the client that their value add plan was going to have some challenges, and it's doable. You just got to budget enough money to compensate for that shortfall. Now, if you're looking at a place that's got 100 amp sub panels, pretty much no problem. You can add a 30 amp dryer load with no problem. In the case of the one I was talking about earlier, it kind of limits you. You can forget 240 volt. You're probably going to do a 120 volt dryer. It's going to be a really small dryer, very low heat load, just to make it work electrically, to try to minimize that impact. Jodi's going to tell you, those dryers, there's only a few people that make them. They're kind of expensive to maintain. So if your strategy, and now we get into all kinds of strategy, if your strategy is to flip this thing in 3 years, you maybe don't worry about a maintenance issue on a dryer. But if you're a buy and hold, now that maintenance issue starts to appear. So anyway, there's a lot that goes into this, and
It's a good point.
we kind of bring a piece of it, and then everybody else has their piece, and they try to advise you properly.
Right.
So
Nice job.
So during this due diligence time, so he talked about a 28 unit that he just did this morning. How long did that take you to kind of get through all the 28 units?
So we're kind of a weird property inspection company. We actually can do 250 units full entry a day. We issue our report the very next day. We've developed proprietary software where every one of our team members does the inspection, what they're assigned on their phone. It uploads to the office. 2 people in the office merge it. One is a technical eye. He's a certified inspector, kind of calls us and says, hey, what's this? What's that? Gives it a quick scrub. And then the other person's an admin, does all of the covers and cover letters and builds the summaries.
It's a team, though.
It's a team. and so, like this 28 unit, we were in the field 3 hours. The client had the report at 2 p.m. and the statement of probable costs will be out tonight by 6. So that's our.
So,
that's our turnaround.
okay.
What's the typical cost of inspection?
So, yeah, so if we do kind of segments, so we have the property inspection piece, which is primarily what we're talking about. We also do, termite inspection and sewer camp. So those are the 3 kind of typical pieces, and then we prepare this thing, the statement of probable cost. So for those 4 components, you can think in terms of about $200 per unit for a duplex, and that goes down to about $50, $55 when you get up into 250 units. So it's kind of a sloped line.
How much of that is safety inspection too, like railings? Do you do any of that?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that we really try to focus on is what liability could a property create for the landlord. And so, a lot of railings, especially like Class C older properties, they don't meet current foreign sphere rule requirements. The seller's going to tell you it's grandfathered, which is probably true, but it is a liability. If someone gets injured, you gotta kind of know where your liabilities are. Smoke detectors. If you got gas in the property, you really should be doing carbon. So there are things that you really, really want to do just to kind of take them off the table from a liability standpoint, and we try to coach you through all that stuff.
That's all good. So that due diligence, that whole time period, so that's 28 units. So if we've taken down a 100 unit property, just multiply that, right? So you could be at the property potentially all day. You have the property management team, the inspection team, some of the folks that he's brought. We may add some people, especially if we have concern in certain areas about certain parts of the property. So, and they're going through each and every unit. So the owner of that property is notifying their tenants well in advance that, hey, we're going to come do an inspection. So they're going through and they're looking at all the ticket items to say, okay, what could we potentially have to do at this particular unit, so that when we're doing our underwriting, once again, we're validating what we underwrote. And we're making a lot of assumptions, right? And we're probably more on the conservative to pessimistic. And then we may come in with, hey, cool, we win because we didn't realize that this was updated, or we may have to add more into our capital, our CapEx budget. And so all of that is going to adjust, and based upon that, when they talk about retrading, and if there needs to be, that's really going back to now, like in a single family space, you'd call it the Benzer, right? Hey, all these things. That doesn't really exist in the multifamily space. You're really not going back. Once you make your bid, you're putting it in there. So when you retrade, you got to have a really good reason why you're doing it, right? So you're asking a lot of those questions from the brokers and things like that up front to try to get your estimations, your assumptions correct. Mhm.
Actually, one thing that third-party independent inspectors do, we don't have any skin in the game. We're not going to make money off of redoing a roof. So we're going to tell you what we see, just straight up. The brokers in a town get to know the inspectors. They know the ones that are kind of calling it the way they see it. And that helps them go back to their client, like the listing agent, to say, yeah, you really should have replaced that section of cast iron sewer pipe because it's completely gone now, and it's, the camera's pulling back mud, and so someone's got to dig it up and put a new line in. So we get points for being just straight up honest, and you don't have to worry about it because we're the independent third party.
No, absolutely. With that being said, that is the reason why we have the independent third parties, and we have the relationships that we have. So we would bring his team out. We have our other contractors for roofing, flooring, whatever it's going to be, ACs. We make sure that as we're going through the diligence and at the end, we look for their reporting. When they give it to us, then we have ours. In 72 hours, you get yours, and see where you're going to go back and forth. We will get on a call with everybody from our operations side to your partner side to walk through the entire due diligence from our reporters, from our inspectors, from our roofers or ACs, where they thought it could go. If you think this is something that, oh my gosh, wow, there are a lot more problems than we thought, or maybe they're fixable and they're not going to be too much. There's all different scenarios, right? But after that happens, and I don't know if you want me to move a little bit further past this, once you get through that, say, oh my gosh, wow, all right, there's a close of escrow date. I like this. This is fantastic. My team, should we come on as your property? We have a 300 line checklist that we get on with our property management team, our entire operations team. We walk through, where's your websites at, right? What do they look like? Are the phones changed over? Are the computers up and running? Are the checks up and running? Where's the renters? Is that system going? So we use Rent Cafe. We like to make sure everything is in line prior to onboarding that property. The communication. So like she mentioned, there is 4 calls a month, if not more, that you would like, that you are talking to your regional to discuss what's happening on this property, what you would like to see happen, and if they'd like to make any changes. So there's constant communication and always reaching out. There's never a reason to hesitate to discuss with any of us. But I would say an inspector is inspecting is the biggest piece. It's single family and or multifamily. We always can have issues. I'm sorry.
He's got questions.
Am I holding this right?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
He's got questions.
So I got 2 questions on the chat here. So first question, is there any data on how well the statement of probable cause match the OPEX of a property?
So we don't really quote an accuracy, but the feedback that we get from our clients is that we're typically 10% high. Keep in mind, these are ballpark costs, so there's no standard of quality, scope established. So if there is an architectural shingle roof that is completely shot, we're going to price out an architectural shingle roof. You may decide we're upgrading the look and we're going to put standing seam metal. That's going to bust that budget, but those are kind of the decisions that would have to be made after a statement of probable cost is established.
All right, thank you. And the other question, does the property inspection company provide a preventative maintenance plan for the property manager to use?
We typically do not. So preventive maintenance is kind of a huge issue. What we're trying to do with a property inspection report is establish a baseline where you take over the property at a certain standard of quality. So if, think of an example, let's say the property has a pool and the plaster is shot. We're going to include pricing in the statement of probable cost to replace the plaster. And there's obviously maintenance that goes, keeping chemicals going so that you don't have to replace it in like 3-4 years versus having it last 20 years. We don't get involved with any of that maintenance plan. That would be Jodi's team.
And I can answer a little bit to that, and thank you, Marty. I want to piggyback right off him. So we kind of just look at everything by case. It would be really more, what is that property requiring as far as maintenance goes, right? So what are we going to look at as far as what's happening there? There's a lot of issues. How many do we need? Do we need a porter? Do we need a maintenance guy? Do we need a superintendent? What do we need out there? So it comes by case, but everything is looked at very much. I mean, as you're looking at this slide, and I think it's going to kind of piggyback a little bit off that question, we do kind of work through from the acquisition to the disposition, right? So we want to make sure that this property in the beginning is even flowing, and that when you decide to disposition it, that we've had it dispositioned the right way, that you've made the returns, where you've gotten to your value adds, what we've gotten. So we do try to maintenance techs or staff it up the way it needs to be, not overflowing it, but it depends on the number of units. It depends on the age of the property. It depends on what's come up with there's a lot of factors that go into that, but everything is very deeply dived into to make sure we are completely staffed and we have the right techs out there, whether it's boilers, chillers, it just depends on a lot of different scenarios, but definitely looked at. Sure. See, he and I could bounce off each other.
So going back to the kind of the maintenance question, so much of it depends on what your plans are. So I'll give you another example. So let's say you have a sewer system that's cast iron, and it's an old system. It doesn't have cleanouts. You're going to get a recommendation from us based on the condition of the cast iron to maybe just add cleanouts. And the reason you want to add cleanouts is now it's going to be really easy to keep that line clean and flowing. So if it's past the point of no return, then we're going to recommend replacing it with ABS. So going back to your decision, if you're going to hold the property for an extended period, you may be thinking more in terms of replacing the ABS. If your strategy is to flip it in 2, 3, 4, whatever years, then maybe the cleanouts is the answer, and you pay for routine rooter flushing every year, whether it needs it or not. And that way you don't get complaints from things backing up. You don't have to replace the cast iron because that's a big number. And for the cost of a couple of cleanouts, that gets you to year 4.
Yep.
Now you can do your disposition.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
I
no.
do recommend that.
So everything that you guys are hearing is all, once again, based on the business plan, right? So when the general partnership team comes together, they may say, hey, our whole period for this investment, by the way, you guys are owners in this, right? So they may say, hey, our whole period is 5 years, or our whole period is, for some people, their whole period's 10 years, right? Because usually for long periods of time, it's really good cash flow. It's like, you're not going to get a bump on the end from appreciation, but they may cash flow you really well year upon year. So we're going to hold it a long time period. We're just going to keep you guys cash flowing. Or if it's 5 years, the objective may just be we're going to add value over the next, the first 2 to 3 years, get rents up, do improvements to the property that makes sense, right? Obviously the things that keep the maintenance low, because at the end of the day, that property is valued on the net operating income. So as much as we can keep our expenses down, right? How much capital X do we really want? Does the amount of capital expenditure kill the deal, right? So a lot of that's going back to his point of, well, you may just recommend certain things because we may have a 5-year period, and a lot of operators will, what they call, leave skin on the bone for the next person, because people like to say, so we may say, hey, we're going to rehab 70% of the units. We're going to light touch a certain percentage of it, and then we're going to heavy value add a certain percentage, maybe because we're trying to transition from a C to a B market or whatever. All of that and how we go about, we go into detail, like to the point from an underwriting standpoint of which years we want to do X, Y, and Z. It might shift, but that's kind of the level of detail that we're going into, because we want to understand how that's going to play out over time, right? So if it's a 5-year period, some of those things may not make sense. Maybe we leave that for the next owner, right? If the AC units we don't want to have to replace all the AC units. That would be nice to do, but when you're in from a rental standpoint, you're like, yeah, we're going to assume we're going to have to replace 50% of these units because of just the age of the units. And when we're doing the due diligence, we're going around and we're looking at, okay, what's the age of, what's the condition of these particular units, those types of things, so that we can put assumptions into play. Does that make sense? For those of you who have rentals, you understand, like, if I don't have to replace that AC, I won't replace it until it's time. So
Right. So with that being said, I think we've kind of covered quite a bit. And, if you have any questions, you certainly can reach out at all times. At the end of the day, our job is to make sure your residents are having it, you're getting the return, and that we're doing our job, and that our managers are in a place that they're happy and they're feeling very happy. And we make sure of that. We are a very family affiliated company. We are not too large. Our corporate offices are on 52nd Street in the 202. We own that building. You're welcome to come in at any time and meet with me. We have any kind of conference room you can sit with. We have some bug flying around there. I'm sure that looked great. And but at all times, I can show you our operations division, what we use in those. We're certainly welcome to introduce you to and answer any questions that you have. And again, we're not looking to be the biggest property management company. We're making sure that you have the experience that you're looking for, and our partners, we have the experience and the partnership that we have with all of you. So thank you very much for having us. Thank you very much for having me. I enjoy working with you very much. She's very intelligent, talented, and she's going a lot of places. So stay right with her.
amen. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Thank both of you guys for just your insight. Tap into the team, guys, because once again, it's not an individual show. It's a team effort. And there's many other. When we looked at the bench, we'll be bringing a lot of the bench back in, right? Because we want you guys to understand the different components. And you guys, I mean, a lot of you guys just like, look, I got no desire to play in that space and be, have my hands in the planning and the general partnership side, but you're passively investing. And a lot of people have said, hey, here's money, just go do which. And I'm like, anybody will take your money. You put your money out there, anybody will take it. I want you to be intelligent enough, even if you're passively investing, I want you to be intelligent enough to just, like, I know enough about the details to be able to ask some of the right questions. And so, we've gone through a lot of those pieces because I really want to arm you guys with, hey, you may never do anything with me, but you may do it with somebody else. And you might think, oh, well, Tari taught us that. And they may be different than me. I got a conscience, I got to sleep at night. But somebody else may be okay, right? And so I want you to be dangerous enough where you know where to go for answers, you know how to kind of navigate the waters.
I love what you're providing in the relationships. It's what it's all like-minded and looking out for each other. That's what it's
Oh, yes. Good. Yeah, look at you guys. Love y'all.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, let's start with. Almost forgot about these. Okay, start with the easy one. Anyone know what this is? Polybutylene. Why is it bad? It fails catastrophically. So galvanized pipe, you get a leak, it's a little seepage leak. Polybutylene just blows right out of the fitting. It's like turning a hose on in your attic. So that's the problem. Anyone know what this is? Nope. I'll throw a hint out. It's stainless steel. It's gas. This is CSST. I'm glad. All right. I'll erase that next time. Okay, he's right. It says gas. Okay. But so the yellow, this is corrugated stainless steel too. The yellow, actually, you have to use the manufacturer's fittings because it's gas piping. If it's metal, has to be electrically bonded. So if there's current that gets on it, you want it to flow to a ground point. You don't want it to stay resident on the tube, because that's a bad thing. So they do make a black version of this now that does not need to be bonded. So the black is fabulous. The yellow can be good as long as it has the right fittings, but if somebody did a homemade fitting somewhere, it could be really dangerous, because like a lightning strike over there and current got near it, there'd be a little arc that jumps from a piece of metal and burns a hole right through the tubing, and now you got a gas leak in an attic. And there actually have been houses that have blown up because of that. So that's why it's an important issue. Okay, this thing. Anyone know what this thing is? It's a sprinkler head. Yep, it's a sprinkler head. Now, generally, yep, yeah. This doesn't have sprinklers, but it is. But here's the bonus point. Anyone know why this is a problem? This one. I'm sorry? It requires heat to activate, and this particular company failed the test. And there's a lot of this in Scottsdale, and they all should be replaced, because 1 out of 5 of them don't go off when they're supposed to, and the fire keeps burning. So this is Omega Central. Anyway, so that's that. And then the last thing, my little, what? Nope, not termite. Okay, it has a percentage of asbestos in. So what is this material used for? Insulation. It's insulation. Typically, you see it in a ceiling, and there's like a certain percentage of asbestos. Sometimes, if it's a block wall and there's like holes in the block wall, they used to, back in the day, fill it with this. And if you drill a hole in it, this will come pouring out, because it's like a liquid almost. It comes out. It's called vermiculite. Now, the neat thing to know about vermiculite is there is a huge fund where you can get 50% of the cost to remove it covered by this fund. You fill out an application. So if you're looking at a property and your inspector says, oh, it's vermiculite, doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad deal. If you pencil in, okay, we're going to have costs, we got to get it out, but 50% of it is going to get processed through the fund. So anyway, thank you for playing my game.
All right, guys, we're coming to the end. This is the last slide. So for those people who are new, who may have been their first time, I think most of you guys have been here. Well, there's a couple new people. So people always ask, well, what's next? Like, how do I start investing? At the current moment, we are just looking at deals. We have an opportunity out there. If you guys want to know about it, you can reach out to me. But we're actively underwriting deals and looking at what deals are going to work to produce the type of returns that we know that you guys will want. And so our goal is to create a community, like we already talked about, from a vision standpoint, of investors that are collaborating their capital together. And this is kind of the core values that we have. It's a lot of my core values, but just what we want the community to have. And so for us to really get an understanding of what you really want, you can scan the QR code. Some of you guys have already done it. I've had a lot of one-on-one conversations. I've had lunches. I've had meetings. I've had all sorts of things. And it excites me to see you guys just like your wheels churning on how we can. And there's things I talk to each and every different people. It's like, it gets my wheels turning on. Okay, how can I? So I'm thinking about also like, who are the right people to like bring together and maybe do side things, right? So I absolutely want you guys to touch base with me, because it invigorates me, number one, and it helps me to see, okay, where people can plug together and where we can make connections. So, and at the end of the day, I also want to make sure that I'm hitting your why. I ask a lot of people, if you've been in a one-on-one already with me, is, what's your why? What's your financial freedom numbers? There's going to be certain questions that I ask you, because you can have this arbitrary thing out there of like, yeah, I just want to get into multifamily. Okay, but if you can own a multifamily and not make money. So, you've got to really understand, okay, what is the goals that I am trying to reach? And then I may say, okay, you know what, value add is going to be your best play. Or, a cash flow type of a deal is gonna be make sense for you. And really, it's really understanding, okay, what are the composites that are gonna make sense that over the next 5 years, 10 years, whatever that may be. And I'm not a financial advisor, so just I'm putting that out there. But just to say, okay, how is it that you can potentially meet that goal, and how can you possibly meet it with syndication and maybe some other things as well. So definitely scan the QR code, fill that information out. I also sent out an email with it as well, and my calendar if you guys want to set up a one-on-one. And I lied because I said that was the last slide. Definitely like us, subscribe to my channel, Lessons into Blessings. I have a lot of different people that I bring on. Some are experts, some are syndicators, some are realtors, some are, they're it's all over the board, right? And it's really everyday people who are doing real estate and are changing their trajectory from a financial freedom standpoint. My goal is you resonate that's on that show. Really do try to find interesting stories and stories that I believe will resonate with you guys. If it's a couple or if it's a single person or if it's a person with 5 kids, like I want no excuses on the table at the end of the day. So my goal is to have no excuses on the table, bring people in so you have no excuse why you cannot move forward. And that's meaning you've got $5 in your pocket. Like there's a way you can move forward, maybe not in the syndication space, but there's a way you can move forward to changing your financial trajectory. If there's any questions, I'll be available. Jodi, I think Martin will stick around for a little while. So thank you guys for joining, and thank you guys for joining online as well. Yeah.